Good morning. My name's Rosemary Georgeson. I'm a Coast Salish, Sahtu, Dene storyteller, bit of a playwright, sometimes a performer. Um, I share stories of growing up on the water, growing up in a fishing family from the land where I'm born, raised on Galiano Island at the bottom end of Active Pass, and how we lived when I was a child down there. And a lot of my work is based in the changes that I've seen in the last 60 years around the water. So, welcome to my home. I'm going to share a bit of a story with you from a piece that I wrote in Rising Tides. My piece is called A Lifetime with Bulb Kelp. I remember as a kid growing up in Georgeson Bay at the bottom end of Active Pass. There used to be so much bulb kelp that it looked like you could walk across the bay on it. All of Active Pass was lined on both sides from one end to the other with big kelp beds. As the children of fishermen and from a long line of family who called the water home, we were raised to know that these beds of kelp were so important to our way of life. The bulb kelp beds were medicines for us. They helped guide us as we learned to move up and down the coast. They were a place we could look to when we needed food, like other creatures, such as the otter. When he could smell the kelp patches, he knew his dinner was right in front of him. When we were young, in our teens, back in the early 70s, we started to notice things changing in our pass and in our bay. The change was gradual, but it was visible to us. We were always raised to be aware of our surroundings because we were all going to be fishermen when we were old enough to get our own boats. And these were the things we needed to be aware of. And we knew that things were becoming a little different every year. The huge beds of kelp that were always taken for granted as always being there, because they'd been there since the beginning, were starting to shrink. More and more every year, these big kelp beds were shrinking and getting less. And with these huge beds of kelp getting smaller and smaller to the point of not existing in Active Pass, also went the homes and foods for all the creatures and ourselves. We were losing a way of life in the pass. Cod got less, kelp beds got less. We rarely saw any. It's been almost 50 years since I first saw my father's anger about what was happening in Active Pass and what we were losing in the place we call home. In these 50 years, I've had the opportunity to see this coast in all of its beauty many times. It had been a few years since I traveled the coast, but a couple years ago I got the opportunity to go back to Prince Rupert for a visit. Prince Rupert is on Cane Island. The airport is on Digby Island, 5 miles to the southwest. You have to take a ferry between the two islands when you fly in. I was so happy to be in a place that I used to know so well. I was overwhelmed by the memories as we landed, back in a place that holds so many of my family's stories. As we were disembarking the plane, there was something seriously missing. I should have had a strong smell of the ocean. I should have been overwhelmed by it, but there was nothing. I felt the heaviness and the loss of the smell, something so familiar, gone now. As I made my way outside on the ferry, I thought that I might see the kelp beds up here. Surely we were far enough north that some had survived the boats and the warming ocean. I was left feeling the emptiness of something that should have been present but wasn't. The loss of the smell of and the loss of the bulb kelp washed over me. What used to be and what is today. It was overwhelming to be hit with these two losses back to back. As I was scanning the water to find even one head of kelp bobbing around, I realized how much we've lost. I wondered and hoped that maybe one day our oceans will be home to bulb kelp again. If the bulb kelp starts returning, then the smells will come back. All the creatures that thrive in their homes in the beautiful big kelp beds will come back. With the return of the bulb kelp also comes more lingcod, rock cod, halibut, red snappers, abalone, and otters to Active Pass, to Prince Rupert, and to my family and our continuing stories. I hope that one day my grandchildren will get to see and smell some of the things I've shared here. What's that going to take? Thank you.